All right, chugging along. Here we go. Question 14 is really similar to the end of the last video, question 13. The difference between 13 and 14 is that 13 starts in factored form and says find the x and y intercepts. 14, same question, just given in standard form, x squared minus 17x plus 60. So, throw that back to blue. Let's see. Well, let's factor this thing out, right? So I did pull this up. Again, when it says find the x and y intercepts, I mean I can go to Desmos here and look see. So 5, 0 is an intercept, 12, 0 is an intercept, but you know, how do we check that visually, or sorry, algebraically? Visually we see that. Algebraically, what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's factor this thing out. So we have x squared, which means I have an x and an x. That's going to give me x squared. Two terms that multiply to 60 and add to negative 17. Well, to get to negative 17, there's a little trick. I don't know how many people have told this, but I know the signage of my parentheses by looking at the start standard form. If the ending number sign is positive, then both signs of my parentheses must be identical. They can both be positive or they can both be negative. They have to be the same sign if this is positive. How do I know which one? Are they both positive or are they both negative? Well, I look at this sign here. If this is negative, they're both negative signs. So I know that I have x minus a number and x minus a number. So going through my multiples, 1 and 60 will not get 17. 2 and 30 do not get 17. 3 and 20. 3 and 20, but they're both negative, right? So negative 3 minus 20 is negative 23. So 3 and 20 could work, but the signage just doesn't work out. So we go past 3, we go 4. 4 and 15 doesn't work. What about 12 and 5? Okay, so 5 and 12, let's see. 12 and 5 gets me positive 60. Negative 5 minus 12, that's your answer. So the work is there, but it's so much easier to find my x and y intercepts now. If I really wanted to, I could go and say, you know what, finding the y-intercept is, again, that's, graphically, I'm looking for where did my graph cross the y-axis. Well, that happens at x equaling 0. So if I plug in 0, I'm going to say y is equal to 0 squared minus 17, 0 plus 60. Well, if you look at how easy that is to solve, that means my y-intercept is 0, 60. Right? So my answer for that is really fast. I did not have to factor it. In fact, it's almost easier to not. Okay, so back to the x-intercepts. Again, the x-intercept means when is my y 0? So I need to almost do this, like say 0 is x minus 5, x minus 12. Okay, so if I look at that, if I can make this 0, the whole thing becomes 0. So at x is 5 and at x is 12. Okay, those are the x-intercepts. If I go over 5, which means if I plug this in, 25 minus something plus 60, that bounces to 0. Sorry, it's Friday afternoon. I'm trying to get through the video quickly. But if you plug in 5, no matter whether you do factored form or not, you should get 0. Same thing with 12. If you plug in 12, this becomes 0. The whole thing becomes 0. Again, graphically, we can go back and check. So 5, 0 and 12, 0 were my intercepts. And if I really stretch this thing out, I can go here and maybe see, yep, 0, 60. Let's check, does that match? Yep, 0, 60 was my y-intercept. So, there you have it. We'll answer 15 real quick. What do the x-intercepts of a graph tell you? They tell you the solutions of the function. Right? The x-intercepts are saying, hey, if I plug in this x value, I get y equals 0. And that's what we mean by finding the solution to a quadratic equation. The solution is, what value of x do I put in so that I get 0 as my y? All right, here we go. Oh yeah, we got time. We can pump these out. Solve each equation. Okay, so now that we've said, what does it mean to solve the equation? The solutions are finding the intercepts. 16 is just simply saying, when does this equal 0? Or when does this equal 0? That's all it's asking, okay? So with that in mind, all I'm going to do is I'm going to look for ways to solve for 0. So 4x plus 3 equals 0, or x minus 7 equals 0. This one's easy, x equals 7. Okay, done. I know that's 0. 4x plus 3 equals 0. That might be a little bit tougher, right? That might take a little bit of time, I guess. Not that it's more difficult. I would just move the 3 over, so it's 4x is equal to negative 3. I divide both sides by 4. I get x is equal to negative 3/4. And the other one was x equals 7. Okay, so that's A. All we have to do is get it into factored form. Where does it equal 0? B, C, and D, those are going to take some factoring. You might have to complete the square. You might just have to factor. Like B, I can pretty quickly look at that and say, hey, look, two numbers that multiply to 12 that get me to 7, they're both going to be the same sign. So x plus a number, x plus a number, they're both the same sign. They're both going to be positive based on that. Well, I can tell you 4 and 3 together make 12 and added together is 7. So x plus 4 and x plus 3 are my answers. So the answer to B is when x equals negative 4 and when x is negative 3. Now again, they're negative for my answer because what values of x give me 0 in the parentheses? That's why my answer is negative 4, because I have to plug it in and get a 0. I got to plug it in, get a 0. All right. So let's see. So then I'm going to check on this guy. This one may not be too bad. I'm going to move everything. So again, you want to solve it for 0. So in order to get something to be solved for 0, we have to get it to say 0. In other words, x squared minus 10x. I have to say, equals 0. And right now I say equals 5, negative 5. So I'm going to do a really quick change. I'm going to add 5 to both sides so that I say plus 16. Right? Now, I haven't changed the graph at all. I have the same equation. I combined some numbers. Now, can I factor that into two numbers? So x squared, so I must have x and x. It's a it's a plus sign here, so they're both the same sign, and they're both negative. So x minus some number, x minus another number. Two numbers get 16 that add to negative 10. Let's see, 4 and 4, no. 1 and 16, no. What about 2 and 8? X minus 2, x minus 8. Together they multiply to positive 16, but summed together, negative 2 and negative 8, that's negative 10. So my answers here are x is 2 and x is 8. Check it, graph it, however you want. You can plug in 2. Let's check. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 20, that's negative 16. Negative 16 plus 11 is in fact negative 5. So we can keep going. This one here, I'll go x squared plus 11x plus 24, right? I'm going to move that 3 over so that it equals 0. Factors, let's see, x squared, so I have x in the front of each one. They're both plus, so they're both the same sign. They're both positives, so x plus something, x plus something. What two numbers multiply to 24 that get me 11? Well, I'm going to shortcut that for you. That's 3 and 8. So my answers are x equals -3. Remember, I'm trying to get the parentheses back to 0. So x is -3 or x is -8. And that is question 16. Went through that fairly quick, but I wanted to make sure I got through all of this in one video, so I'm going to save the last 3 questions for the last video, but pause it, rewind it, re-listen to it, whatever you need to do. But hopefully these are helping, and we'll see you in class on Monday.